So back in the, what was it, October? It seems like last year. Um, we were at the Connect conference, and my topic was demystifying online student orientation, because that's what I had been working on. So here's that presentation. So I spent a little time talking about me, but since we don't need to do that, and this is a short version, we'll go on. The reason why we're here is for students who, as this one depicted here, who is confused about any number of things that serve as a barrier to being able to easily and effectively participate in their course. So if we can keep this person in mind, then we know what our goal is. This is a person who we want to keep in school, not drop out. We want to retain them. We want them to be successful. So how do we present an orientation? Well, this presentation really has two components. There's the approach to the course that we took, and then there's the content, two separate things. So first we'll talk about the approach we took. Well, first thing we did was we tried to determine what was currently in need of fixing up, freshening up, and these are it breaks down into these three categories. There are things that are either out of date, things that are hard to follow, and there's a lack of interactivity. So if we just take care of these three issues, we've gone a long way to improving things. So how did we go about this? Well, we assembled a team, and you may know some of these people. Of course, I think these are pretty good pictures taken with my cell phone. We got together. The mission was to essentially plan a new course, and to do that, we sat down and looked at the requirements. What do we want to do, accomplish during this project? Of course, we want to keep the course updated as often as it needs to be. We wanted to look like a real course, so that when the student takes a student orientation, they're getting practice for understanding what they're going to see when they actually are in their history or physics course. Well, maybe not physics, that's a separate step. But because this doesn't go into labs and external interfaces, this orientation doesn't. We wanted to mimic a real course, like I said, so that it looks like students will recognize it, they'll be able to transfer their impression of what they saw in the orientation. Interactivity and accessibility. Well, accessible, of course, goes without saying, but interactive means that there's some more expectation that they do something and we do something, and that there's options for them to interact, whereas currently there isn't as much or any. Something we haven't done in the past is we want to analyze who's taking the course, what the feedback is, are we connecting, are we answering questions, what are the questions? And then lastly, we realized this is an industry, a little cottage industry, the student orientation. So somebody's got to keep it up going, create the course every semester, note when changes are needed, schedule those changes, the changes have to be made, new videos, if the interface changes, the nav bar changes, there's work to do, and it's ongoing. So we have to realize that it's an operation as well as a project. So, updating the course each semester, well, what are we looking at? Well, the course templates change, new videos occur, content, photos, and photos are especially important to keep updated, or else you end up with photos like this, where clearly, this is a real old photo. It's when John had a little bit of hair on top of his head. So we definitely want to update photos. Monitor and respond. Well, it turns out that there's a number of ways that the student could actually use the interactive communications, such as email and posting to discussion forums, posting to a Dropbox when they submit their practice assignment. So somebody needs to be aware that students can communicate through this student orientation course, and they should receive a response. So it has to be, that's what being monitored means. Just looking for new discussion posts, new Dropbox submissions, and looking for, hey, the student says, hey, did I do this right? And if they don't get an answer, I don't need to explain how that affects our student impressions of us. So at this point, I took a physics course just to show the audience who were not familiar with CCC Online courses what it looks like. And if we look at the student orientation course, it has the same exact outline with a couple of exceptions. One, we've removed underneath where it says Essentials of Online Learning. Typically we have a banner that says click on content so you can go to start here and get your course going, and that's the last thing we want them to do when they first see this screen. So we took that out. Everything's above the fold, assuming they have a reasonable screen resolution. They see there's a welcome message, there's a guy, avatar for Professor Knows-It-All, who is the quote, the person who's interacting with the student. So, for instance, the email address advising@CCC Online goes to Lisa, who will monitor that. So for that moment, she's Professor Knows-It-All, and if a student posts to a discussion and they're answered by somebody else, then they're Professor Knows-It-All. So there's this quote, this entity or this character who appears throughout the student orientation. So this is the home page. When we go to the content page, you know how we start at the Start Here module, and there's the professor again. What we did here, very briefly, was we embedded a short video, which essentially goes through the Start Here page, rather than just, because right now the student hits Start Here and they see all of these all of these activities, clickable links and so forth. This short video essentially gives them a 30-second whirlwind tour of what they're about to see. And then, well, here's the video. I won't play it, but you get the idea. At this point, we walk through the modules. The technical support module. There's a short video on what that's about. The student can actually click on these two items here. I can't do it in the presentation, of course, but you know what a student would expect to see. The next is the syllabus module, and it too contains a short video. But the syllabus module is something that I went into more deeply with in this orientation, and I'll show you in a second. Because the syllabus module is, we apply what was commonly known as chunking the syllabus. When we chunk the syllabus, as opposed to other places where the syllabus is one mega document, we are able to identify and separate the important skills and pieces of information that we want to get. So, of course, to all you, this is second nature. To the audience that I presented to, this was not necessarily a common concept where you break out the syllabus into individual components. So, because it's the short presentation, I won't go through all of the components of the syllabus, but I do want to point out that in the student orientation course, some of the syllabus entries will actually be relevant to the student. For instance, course competencies and objectives. These are the ones for this class, for this student orientation. Notice it has two modules. Well, actually, oops, hold on a second. You see module 1 at the bottom, but there is obviously there's module 2. This is, well, it's not obvious, but you'll see this is a 2-module course. It attaches objectives and competencies for this course, and I also explain that this is what you'll see for all your courses. There'll be the objectives, and then you'll see the competencies, and you should pay attention to them because you want to know what your end objective is to walk away from this course with. So I go through this slide in some detail. Course materials. Well, there's no course materials for the course, the orientation course. So we explain that this is what you'll see for your normal courses. Your courses will have books and so forth, but this one doesn't. This was pretty straightforward. Instructor knows it all, professor knows it all. There's no grading or evaluation in the orientation course, but I point out that this is what you'll see in your real courses. The reason why there's X's here is because it doesn't apply to us here in this orientation. The course schedule, notice there's no due dates because this course is asynchronous. Student starts it and stops it whenever they want. But these are the assignments in each of the modules. It's just that there's no due dates. So this, but of course, I make the point that in your course, you'll want to pay attention to the due dates because they're very important. It tells you what you have to do, when, and you may want to print it out and all that stuff. So for the orientation course, it's just here's a FYI, here's what your course schedule looks like. And then we go into the Module 1. Very briefly, Module 1 is simply some introductory skills and exploration, an activities list. There's a short video, like as you would imagine at this point. And in Module 2, we actually ask students, I guess I go through some, likewise, I go through the activities in the Module 1. It's basic skills. Module 2 is practicing. This is where the students have to do a couple of things. They have to post to a discussion to prove they can do it. They have to submit a Word document to a Dropbox to prove they can do that too. And there are a number of explorations which go through these skills. So by the time the student has gone through Module 1 and 2, they've exercised almost all the skills and learned the competencies, or attempted to cover the competencies that we posted for this class. So here, this is what the practice discussion and practice assignment look like. Quite simple. And here's where, as we said, the students can give feedback or ask questions or want to communicate. So these need to be monitored. So something we don't necessarily do to a large extent is analyze what happens in this course. How many students are enrolled and what kind of interaction there are, retention rates. Some of these questions are, they're mineable because we have the data, and others are, we don't know quite yet what we can expect to get from this orientation course. So I asked Matt to provide some information, and he did. Yeah, that Matt, yeah. Okay. So as of October 14th, I guess, we had that number of students enrolled, that number of students participating in the different activities. And as far, when I asked Lisa how many students, how many emails have we had, she said we had a handful. So that's why there's a handful. And then we have Matt was able to pull average time spent in the course. As far as retention rates, that's a leap, and as far as building a bridge from one to the other is better people than I are going to work on that. So.
That's a great idea.
That was my idea. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Thank you. Well, let's where are the pick those numbers? So just this sort of goes back over the things that we know we need to do on a continuing basis. If somebody, it's on their calendar, they got to check all this stuff. And whether it happens once a semester, if it need be, then it's changed once a semester, as like I said, as the other external factors change. Things we like to maybe do in the future: add more interactivity, such as self-check quizzes or scavenger hunts. We can certainly increase the multimedia implementations, including potentially having just an hour live WebEx once a week. Ask Professor Knows It All. We can get John to dress up with a wig and a tie, and so he can be in front of the camera and play the part. Got to speak in I think he has to speak in a German accent. Best practices for the online course, and again, this is mostly we've talked about the approach. Keep it updated. Don't leave students hanging. Mimic. These are just a repeat of what we had on the first slide. We want to look down the road, certainly, because I think this is one of those things that will always require some updating. Here I just listed here's when we talk about the content, and actually in the presentation I made at the Connect conference, we didn't go into this as much detail, but this is a list of the competencies as they are now, because these existed before. So the question is, and I did go over this a bit, and I had a short conversation about what do students need to know? What do they need to get out of a student orientation course? So we have a list of competencies. In the project that John and the team worked on, we didn't really investigate that level of detail. So I would say at this point, yeah, there's probably still some things we'd like to add to it to add additional competencies. As far as assessing those competencies, there are very few assessments, save for them successfully submitting something to the Dropbox and posting to a discussion. So there's potential to build out additional assessment activities. And I think, oh yes, for more info, that was the picture I used earlier on the slide. So, yeah, a special filter on the camera, right? And thank you very much. So, and I suppose I can take questions. Thank you. That was it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. Lisa was there. Lisa, and so she was. We actually had some really interesting conversations from people who had considered this topic before and had some ideas about it, and Lisa was very helpful to answer more directly about the role of student services and so forth. So, yes, sir.
As you probably noticed, we don't require this for us, it's very optional. Has it ever been required in the past? We've never found a way to make it required because if we make it required, we have a large number of students coming in from colleges where it's required at college to do orientation, and then you run into the issue of students saying, but I already did an orientation, how do I opt out of it? We didn't have it. So we've never been able to solve that conundrum. And plus also, we don't have our own group of students. Students kind of come and go from CCC Online one semester to the next. So if they've done it 2 semesters ago, do we have them do it again? All that.
Yeah.
So no, we've never required it so far. I will say Front Range has an orientation course for their online students. They require it, but they have no way of forcing the requirement to do well. So they just tell students it's required. And hope for that,
Yeah.
Maybe 60% of the students in it, so they scare them.
Well, it would be interesting to perform some, a well thought out and controlled, initiative to determine what the effects are, and use the data from that to refine and hone the product, to be more effective. And I know that's a long-term goal, and it's but it's something to think about down the road. And just one more thing, now that I'm on the WCET email list, and I probably get 20 a day, and I look at them and I put them in a folder or I delete them. But I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but there were a number of conversations regarding student orientation. So there's a segment of that organization where this conversation thread is going on. It'll be interesting to review those and connect and see if there's some things that we can share and learn. So.
A lot of those are open. You don't have to be a student.
Yeah.
And that's kind of